Hi, this is Mike at Mike's Carburetor Parts. I'm working on this Rochester Monojet one-barrel carburetor, and I've been rebuilding it. This is part 3, hopefully the last part of a series of videos for rebuilding this carburetor. And I'm going to go ahead and continue on. And we're going to get the float in next. First of all, I put the little clip on the pin that came in the kit. If you're missing it, don't worry about it. It's not absolutely necessary to have it there. It's kind of nice. What it does, when the float comes up, it helps pull that out so it doesn't stick into the seat. Put your little retainer float pin in here like this, and then just sets down. The important thing is then not to get that little clip in there such that when the float opens it binds up the pin. You want to go straight up and down. Okay, so what we do on the float level, we're going to make sure that it stays down. We're going to press down the back of the float so that this needle sits down in the seat. Don't press hard. You don't want to damage the Vite and tip, which can be done very easily, and then you're going to have a leak and a flooding situation. Alright, so we're going to hold it up like that. You're going to take your measuring tool. You're going to get the data off your data sheet for your particular vehicle. We are going to measure in just a little bit from the toe, the end of the float, to the top of the float ball. Now this one happens to be 1/4 of an inch is the setting for it. And it looks pretty darn, let's see. I gotta make sure this pin doesn't come up. You gotta really watch that. Yeah, that looks pretty close. To adjust it, you just bend the arm right here, up or down. Okay. Again, don't put any pressure on the needle. All right. So now we got the float in. We got it adjusted. We're going to adjust our metering, our power rod and power piston. And what we're going to do is make sure your idle screw, your slow idle, is not holding the throttle open at all. It's not touching. And we're going to press down all the way on our power piston. And we're going to measure the distance from the top of the float bowl to the bottom of the arm there. And again, you're going to have to check your data sheet to make sure that that's right, because it could be different on yours. The data sheet will either go by the application or by the carburetor number. Now if by chance you can't find your vehicle easily on there, the next best thing is get to the closest engine sizes you can get. Alright, so put the float bowl gasket on next. This is split across here so that it goes over the power piston. One thing I want to mention here is be sure that your float, when it goes up and down, is not rubbing on this right here. Any part of the carburetor, you may have to bend it to the side if it is. I've had that happen, and where it keeps the float open and then it floods. So if you have a flooding situation, that's something you can look at. Okay, so let's put that aside just a bit. Okay, we're putting this aside for a second. We're going to put the top together. Let's see. Put our choke shaft in there. Put our little hook in here. This goes, let's see, goes like this, I believe. Just got to fish it in there so the hook is facing like that. Okay. So we got our little screws that go in there, and we put a little bit of thread locker on it, red or blue. We don't want them to come out and end up in the engine. So I always put a little thread locker on there. Now, if you don't have a good drill set and a good tap and die set, then unless you have a good reason to, don't even take this part apart. you chance breaking these screws or the shaft or stripping it or whatever, and then you're going to be in trouble. And if you can't tap them out, not a good deal. You just can't go out and buy this stuff. Sometimes we have used parts available online, but they come and go pretty quick when we do have them. I'm not in the used car either, actually. Used part business, new part business, so I don't get mired down used parts too much. Okay. Okay, so just like so. Alright, we'll go ahead and put the top on. This part right here, your power piston arm here, fits in this little slot right here. And so we're going to have to, by the way, did I show you how this went on? I don't remember here. I'm going to take it off, make sure I didn't have this on already, just so you see. This one here is missing a spring, and I'm not going to take the time to go looking for one. Just want you to be aware that there should be a spring in there. Okay. The spring would sit on here, in between the screw head and the plastic there. Alright, so I'll put that in, would have the spring on it, and this goes in the top. Now this is adjusted after you get it on the engine, so we're not going to do any adjustment on it right now. In case I didn't mention it, we do want to adjust the power piston, and the way you do that is make sure that the idle screw is turned back so that it's not holding the throttle open at all. You hold your power piston down all the way, and you measure the difference between the arm here and the top of the float bowl, and that's the distance you want to measure, and you will get that measurement out of your data sheet in the kit. Okay, so it's different depending on your application. Alright, so I don't know, I may have showed you that adjustment already. Sometimes I do these videos, have to do them a couple of times because I forget something, I have to go start over. But so anyway, better show you twice and not at all. Alright, so now we're going to get the top back on. And like I say, that has to fit in that little slot, so we have to do a little wiggling around. We're not going to force it. We'll just keep working it, and it'll drop in there where it's supposed to go. Alright, put all your screws in there, and we're going to tighten them down in sequence so that we don't warp anything. And the sequence goes like this. We'll start with this screw here, and we don't tighten one screw down all the way, we just get it started, and then we'll go around the carburetor like so. This sequence is on the instruction sheet. And like I say, I don't screw one down all the way and then go to the next one. I will do each one a little bit at a time, then we'll go around it again for a final adjustment or final tightening. Okay, I don't reef on these real hard. That's how they get warped over time. Monojets aren't too bad for warping compared to a lot of carburetors. Alright, so let's get in our choke pull off, or vacuum brake as some call it, and your new diaphragm will go on just like this. Just poke it over the shaft here. This little metal has to go inside the indent there, the cup part, and you just put it on here and hook it on the hook. Okay, you can see why that had to be there. You got a vacuum hole right here, and be sure that is plenty clear when you're cleaning your carburetor. Be sure that's turned the right way so that the vacuum hole lines up. And then we'll put our little cap on there. Let's see, where's the screw? Okay, well, we'll come back to that because I'm not sure what I did with the screw. We'll put this little lever on here, choke lever. Let's see, it goes this way, just like that. Okay. Better show you this. This is your idle compensator. Generally is on vehicles with the air conditioning, sometimes just automatic, and it's all about helping the gas not percolate when you come to a stop. And where'd my oh. So I had this on and off once already, and I decided to redo it. Now there's a little gasket that goes right in there, comes in the kit, a little cork thing. You'll see the indentation for it in there, and then this goes on just like this. This is all about heat. When it gets hot, it actually bends and lets more air in. Okay. Okay, now let's get this back on here. Here are the screws. That's not the screw. What did I do with those screws? Where'd they go? I'll have to come back to it. There are two little screws right here. I don't know what I did with them. Alright, so we're going to put the fast idle cam on here. Thread it like so. First of all, the printing goes out so you can see it. Thread your rod from the back side here. There's a little tit on here you got to thread through there. And then turn it like that. Okay. And then thread it on the inside there like that. Okay. You got this special little screw. Can't just use any screw there. This cam opens by its own weight, so it can't be sticky. Be sure as you're putting your as you go along putting your carburetor together, nothing sticks. So your choke should be absolutely loose. Okay, if it starts, you see it sticking somewhere, try and figure out where it's at before you go any further. Alright, so how this works is when it's cold, the choke closes, and it pulls this cam up so that you're on your high step here, which actually opens up the throttle a little bit. As it warms up, the cam, by its own weight, will open like that, and it'll end up being on the small part of the cam. Okay? So just to preset this idle, because we backed it out a little, I'm going to screw it in until it just touches. Okay, and then I'll just another quarter turn there, and that'll just slightly open the throttle valve. Okay, so that's your initial adjustment before you put it back on the car. Let's see, one other quick thing I'll show you here is that your I don't have a filter for this yet, but you'll get the idea. You have a filter spring, which we can provide, by the way. Goes in there like that. Your filter goes in. Okay, before my video camera rudely interrupted me, I was going to show you about the fuel filter. And first we put in the spring, then we put the fuel filter in there, which I don't have. So I'm just going to, then don't forget your gasket. You don't want to use Teflon tape around here. We find Teflon tape in needle and seats all the time. It just isn't a good thing to do. If you have a leak problem, just use a little liquid Teflon. Alright, so the spring goes in first. Your filter, which we don't have out here. Oh, I know what I was saying. I keep getting interrupted here. You don't want to use Teflon tape around here. You want to use a little, you can put a little bit of liquid Teflon, put it just on the outside of it here. You don't want any of it getting in the carburetor. And it goes on there. I'll get the filter later and tighten it up. You don't have to reef on them too much. Sometimes the other thing you can do, if I've had trouble with these things leaking, you can take a flat file and file over this flat, make sure that's good and flat. That's only if you're having a leaking problem around the edge. These aren't too bad. I don't even know if those fittings are available. I'll have to check. Anyway, okay, so that's that. So I think we got everything on. I finally found the screws for these. Put that on there. Looks like we're good to go. Okay. Let's do an adjustment. We did some of the inside. We're going to do our fast idle cam adjustment, and what we do here is we're going to close the choke, and we want to put this on the second step. Okay, next to the highest step right here. Okay, just like that. So we want to put that right there. That's when we're holding the choke valve closed. Close as it'll get. Alright? And this goes on the second step. And this is illustrated in your on your instruction sheet pretty well. You put it right there, then you measure the distance in here between the wall of your carburetor and the choke valve. Okay? And I'm not going to give you the measurement. That's on your data sheet. It could be different for your vehicle. Okay, so that's one adjustment. The next thing we'll do is the choke pull-off adjustment, and what we do there is we close the choke. Sometimes you have to hold the throttle open to do that. We're going to get us a rubber band here because we want to use it to hold it closed. Okay, just like so. Otherwise we got to have 4 arms on this one. And what we're going to do here is we're going to pull the you want to pull your vacuum brake all the way until it seats, and then again measure your distance in here, and again that measurement is in your data sheet. You can adjust it by bending this little arm right here. Alright, and same thing with this other adjustment. What we did right here on the second step, just like that. You get that right by bending this arm right here. Okay, bend it more or straighten it out, whatever it takes to get it right. Okay, so that's the adjustments, at least on this particular carburetor, while it's off of the car. So there you go. Everything else pretty much got to be on the car. Alright, or it's a different kind of carburetor. Alright, so I hope this video helps you get your Monojet together correctly. The only thing we didn't do is put our air cleaner mount on there, but you know, no big deal. Just goes on there with 2 screws. So there you go, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching.